Good afternoon, viewers. To welcome you for a session on the question of environment for our FHS course. Today we'll be briefly talking about the question of environment, what we mean by it. Then I have with me Dr. Vijay Shekhar Reddy, who is a political scientist with concerns in environment. So he'll also be talking about his concerns. We'll also be seeing a small film on the impact of urbanization on global environment, and we'll be discussing this amongst ourselves as well as with you. So if you have any questions on that, you must come up and question us on that. Now, it's clear that when we talk about environment, we mean the interaction of the living with the non-living, the biotic and the abiotic. This interaction is considered to be crucial in looking at the question of environment. It is this interaction which led our ancient Indian literature, ancient Indian texts to consider the relationship between the kind of medicinal properties of plants and how they could help human beings. They had various theories regarding that. They had various kinds of ideas regarding that, which we get to know from various Indian traditional literature. The concern with disease and environment is also central to the 18th century physiocrats' way of looking at environment. They also emphasized how disease can be cured or prevented if we have proper environment in place. It is for this reason that they advocated extensive afforestation laws in various parts of the world in the 19th century. The physiocrats and their followers went to the extent that they passed all-encompassing penal laws for people who would violate afforestation or growth of forests in their various countries or regions. This led to some kind of notions of criminality which were detrimental to the question of environment itself, but we'll discuss about it later on. In the 20th century, one of the major theories of environment came from the Marxists, who basically regarded imperialism as one of the biggest, or imperialist countries as one of the biggest polluters of environment. So they advocated that basically if you solve the problem of environment, if you want to solve the problem of environment, you basically have to counter imperialism first. They of course do not take into account that there are huge amount of debates within the imperialist and the colonialist scholars themselves, which actually are discussing the question of environment. But then by the end of 20th century, with the end of the Cold War and so on, we have again the Rio Protocol, or the Rio Summit in 1992, which talks about the question of environment, where various countries of the world, about 156 of them in fact, gathered together to discuss questions of greenhouse warming or basically rising sea levels and so on. And there also there was opposition by countries which were considered imperialist, but there was some attempt to arrive at consensus about the question of environment. Now, what we will do today, I mean, as I indicated in the beginning, is that we will view a film on urbanization and its impact on global environment. We will discuss this film and we'll bring in the related questions of environment while discussing this film. Okay, so Dr. Vijay Shekhar Reddy, would you want to add something to this?
Yes, Ajay, what you have rightly brought out, the most important fact is that concern was for environmental balance was implicit in the worldview during the ancient period and even the subsequent period, even till as late as the mid-19th century. It is only with the industrialization and following it urbanization that environmental concerns began to emerge. And more specifically, these became international concerns in the 1970s, I must say. This is because by the 1970s, worldwide there was a capability for monitoring the environment through various new technologies that became available. One of the most important technology is, of course, the remote sensing satellites that were launched in the early 70s. These provided the tools for monitoring how the global environment was affected and in what way industrialization and urbanization was adversely affecting the environment, and what are the global measures that are necessary to tackle such environmental concerns. I think it is in this background that the focus on the impact of urbanization on environment is very important.
That's right. I mean, that's why we are discussing this aspect of this crucial aspect of the environmental question by showing you this film. Urbanization is a peculiar manifestation of man's interaction with the environment. Urbanization processes are the processes which generate cities, which generate people who travel to cities from rural hinterlands, leaving their agriculture behind and carrying some of their crafts with them, and they settle down in cities. This has happened over the years in various ways, but in the modern period, as Vijay was saying, with industrialization, there has been a peculiar quality to this urbanization, which is basically accompanied by the phenomenon of capitalism, where there is an uprootment of people from the rural countryside and bringing them to the urban areas. How these people who are uprooted and who come to the urban country, who come to the urban environment, how do they inscribe themselves in this environment is a question which has become a question of global concern. And that is why this film on impact of urbanization on globalization. So can we have the film, please?
We all know a city is a large town or an important urban center. But this city is not self-contained. It cannot exist on its own. It has to exchange matter and energy from outside. Such an exchange involves conversion of material which takes place between the city and a much larger environment outside it. Therefore, a city is called an open ecosystem. In our program, we are going to see how this exchange is affecting our environment. Our planet is becoming an enormous garbage can for developed cities. It is very important to point out that there is a limit to this because the environment is finite. The Earth cannot forever go on supporting our increase in population and technological development. There are limits to such growth. In the year 2000, the 10 biggest cities in the world will be Mexico City, Sao Paulo, Tokyo, Yokohama, New York, New Jersey, Shanghai, Beijing, Rio de Janeiro, Greater Bombay, Calcutta, and Jakarta. Our cities use various hydrocarbons such as coal, oil and gas. This results in the release of large amounts of carbon dioxide. The large amount of carbon dioxide released by our cities is affecting the environment. It is causing a rise in global temperature. Let us see how. Normally, excess of heat goes back to the atmosphere as infrared radiations from the Earth. Carbon dioxide has the ability to retain these radiations. Consequently, an increase in the concentration of carbon dioxide in the atmosphere leads to an increase in global temperature. This is called the greenhouse effect. The traditional view is that the Earth will get warmer and warmer. This will lead to the melting of parts of polar ice caps. As a result, cities such as Amsterdam, London, New York, and Beijing would be flooded. Huge areas of low-lying fertile farmlands will be lost. Our cities contribute to the greenhouse effect in two ways. Firstly, they release large amounts of gases such as carbon dioxide into the atmosphere. Secondly, to meet their demands, forests are being destroyed at the rate of 20 hectares a minute. These forests would have helped in reducing carbon dioxide from the atmosphere. Due to extensive urbanization, most developed countries today are unable to generate livestock for their food requirements. This is supplied by other countries at the cost of their own environment. For example, most of the beef requirements of the United States, Europe and Japan is met by the countries of Latin America. These countries have cleared their vast rainforests to provide more land for cattle farming. By 1985, two-thirds of Central America's accessible rainforests had been cleared or seriously depleted. These rainforests are the Earth's richest source of genetic diversity. They are the home of as many as 1/5 of the world's approximately 5 million species. Likewise, other forests are also important sources of genetic diversity. Another important aspect of forests is that they regulate the supply of fresh oxygen, which is vital for our survival. One tree reduces in a day enough carbon dioxide to produce oxygen for 3 persons to breathe. 1 hectare of forests can alone in an average of 30 tons per year of dust, soot and ashes, thus purifying the atmosphere. The trees around us act as a biological filter by trapping various pollutants. They are in fact the lungs of our Earth. Due to extensive urbanization, forests are giving way to semi-deserts and deserts. These now occupy 53.3 million square kilometers. This is more than 1/3 of Earth's land surface. Overgrazing by a large number of animals destroys the plant cover, which protects the soil. With the disappearance of the plants, the land becomes unstable. Thus, overgrazing results in severe erosion and desertification sets in. Every year, precious topsoil is being lost at the rate of 25 billion tons. That is about 7% of the world's soil every decade. On the one hand, we are damaging the lungs of our Earth by destroying the forests. And on the other, we are adding more and more pollutants to our atmosphere. This brings us back to the exchange going on between the city and its environment. Our cities use many types of aerosols. These aerosols are largely used in refrigeration technology and as cleaning agents in households. Aerosols contain chlorofluorocarbons, popularly known by the abbreviation CFC. CFCs are released into the atmosphere when aerosols are used. Due to the constant exchange between the city and the atmosphere, since 1955, the amount of CFCs in the atmosphere has increased 25 times. This ever-increasing number of aerosols now threatens the planet as a whole. CFCs destroy the ozone layer of the atmosphere. This ozone layer is that part of the atmosphere which protects us from excessive ultraviolet radiation by blocking it. Due to the increase in CFCs in the atmosphere, the ozone layer is getting depleted. An ozone hole has developed over the Antarctica. Consequently, the quantity of ultraviolet radiation reaching the Earth is also on the rise. It is believed to be the cause for the increase in the incidence of skin cancer. Future increase in the ozone hole could be very damaging. Many of us use chemical products termed as fresheners in our homes. By their use, we not only pollute our own homes, but also the globe, which is the house of life itself. Another major threat is of pollution. Here we can see dispersal of air pollution by wind. An estimated 3,000 chemical pollutants have been added to the atmosphere, and some 500,000 polluting substances, including nuclear wastes, have reached the oceans. Cities are centers of mass consumption, and therefore it is but natural that these will be centers of mass disposal. The garbage produced by the United States alone in a year will fill such a large number of trucks of 10-ton capacity, which when lined up neck to neck will reach halfway to the moon. Another environment problem is discarded plastics. These do not degrade. Red and yellow plastics contain cadmium, which is poisonous. When buried for disposal, this cadmium content is carried into groundwater. From there, it enters the natural water cycle. Household chemicals used and overused further pollute this. In many cases, sewage flows into rivers untreated. Along with this, bacteria and other disease-carrying agents mix with the river water. Thus, these pathogens enter the water cycle and finally reach man, causing widespread disease. Now there is hardly such a thing as pure water. From the moment it forms rain until it completes its journey to the sea, water is polluted by man and his cities. Traffic-induced smogs affect many of the world's major cities. Nitrogen oxide and other exhaust gases react in the sunlight to produce photochemical smog, which envelops the city as a dense blanket of pollution. The 500 million motor vehicles on the world's roads are adversely affecting our environment. One such effect is the notorious acid rain. This acid rain is also produced by sulfur dioxide emitted from the tall chimneys of power stations. These tall chimneys disperse sulfur dioxide fumes over large areas. On their journey, the fumes dissolve in water vapor to form sulfuric acid, which falls to the ground as acid rain. In thousands of lakes in Canada, Scotland, Norway and Sweden, all life has been killed by acid rain. Once acidified, a lake becomes crystal clear because all organisms living in it die due to the acid. Over 20,000 lakes in Sweden alone have thus been affected by acid rain. Acid rain also destroys trees. Nearly half of all the trees in what was earlier federal Germany are now damaged. 50% of evergreen forests in northeast United States are dead. Now deciduous trees are being damaged as well. Cities are contributing to global pollution literally brick by brick. Brick making releases toxic fumes and renders vast areas of land unsuitable for cultivation. In the manufacture of another construction material, that is cement, polluting dust is produced. Building materials such as urea formaldehyde insulation foam and asbestos have proved to be health hazards after long-term exposure. Thus, a lot of materials used to construct our cities result in pollution. Traces of heavy metals used in paints are discharged into rivers and estuaries by the factories manufacturing these. Due to such pollutants, living organisms are perishing. The world's most important resources are biotic. Due to this destruction of their habitat, many life forms are now on the verge of extinction. In order to satisfy the demands of rapid urbanization, we in our lifetime are destroying what evolution took millions of years to create. The rate of disappearance of entire species is constantly rising. These resources, our plants and animals, maintain the biosphere as a habitat suitable for life. Another reason for the extermination of life forms.
Okay, thank you to the technical team for showing us that film. Now you saw in this film the direct connection has been made between the kind of urbanization which is going on and the extinction of life forms which has become the result of that. Urbanization uses varieties of products and like sprays or aerosols and so on, which directly pollute the atmosphere, which basically add to the greenhouse effect, as it were. And the concerns internationally, let me point out, going back to the earlier discussion, from the Rio summit onwards, was basically how to curtail this greenhouse effect, how to restrict how to restrict this emissions, greenhouse gas emissions, which was coming from some of the most industrialized countries, which were already in an advanced stage of urbanization. The Rio summit took this into account. Then this was then followed up by a biodiversity convention, which basically took into account the fact that the genetic resources were disappearing, as the film made very clear just now, how the kind of urbanization process is hastening the extinction of various kinds of species, which evolution took years to create. Then there is also a UN Convention against desertification, another point which has been highlighted by the film. Now, these are the questions which we take up today when we talk about environment. Do you want to add anything to this, Vijay?
Nothing much other than to say that the film has really brought out graphically, the dangers that urbanization has posed to the biosphere, the life in the biosphere, and biotic resources are the most important ones, which some of these have taken centuries to evolve, and in a short span of just say, I think, when did major industrialization begin as a force? In the mid-19th century, and it spread to rest of Europe by the end of the 19th century, and the developing countries which have been under the colonial yoke, once they became independent in the mid-20th century, they adopted more or less similar models of development, that is industrialization and urbanization based on modern science and technology. As a result, what has happened is some of these countries are now entering into the same urbanization process which the countries of Europe and America had gone through already.
That's right.
So when these countries come together to deal with the problem of environmental concerns, then I think in these conferences there is, as you hinted, that there is a gap between who should take the most responsibility, and how should they contribute to solving these problems and all that. Because some of them have technological solutions. Like, for instance, when you say that CFCs contribute to the degradation of the ozone layer with ramifications for the environmental biotic resources. There are substitutes for CFCs. But these substitutes take a lot of R&D and efforts to develop, and such resources are not available or evenly spread across the countries of the world. It is the industrialized countries which have basically much more advanced R&D resources to find solutions for this. I think some of these issues get reflected in the Rio conference and other places where global solutions are being sought for dealing with the problem of environment.
That's right. But the problem, Vijay, has been this, that all these summits and conferences, Rio, Stockholm, and so on, have been taking place. But on the ground level, I mean, apart from perhaps some Western countries now alarmed at the impact on environment are taking some technological measures, but there has been a very little. There has been very little implementation. Say, for example, in the third world, which is now getting into a process of urbanization, which the first world was undergoing some say about 100 years back. So, the burning of fossil fuels, the kind of pollution after that, I mean, these kind of things are not being taken into account. I mean, as we have hinted in one of our units on the question of environment, that there is hardly any governmental attempt to take up this issue. I mean, the onus of this responsibility now has actually now come down to civil society and individuals like us, who need to be very vigilant regarding this question and take and pressurize governments to implement whatever were the agreements which the government has been party to at the international levels.
Yes, that is one of the important aspects because of more or less a governmental apathy, I must say, or neglect of the, not recognizing the gravity of the situation. Some of the strategies adopted by the industrialized countries in the past, we are still continuing to adopt instead of searching for alternative paths of development. I think for many, as the video program brought out, the building blocks of urbanization itself have been those that degrade the environment and biotic resources. Given this, I think now we just cannot go back on the process of urbanization. Urbanization is necessary. But then now we can search for alternative means to go about urbanization. And here now, as my colleague has brought it out, large number of non-governmental organizations are playing a very important role, and so are the individuals. I think it is the pressure brought out by the common citizens like us and by the non-governmental organizations that are having a bearing on some of the governments in the world. How do you see, Ajay, the prospects for a cleaner environment emerging in the near future?
Well, the point is that after the Rio summit and then even after the Kyoto Protocol, there was, what we in all these international agreements, what we are seeing is some kind of universal kind of arguments, totalizing arguments, which are being put forward by various countries and so on, which are basically, basically making grand statements regarding what they can do about the environment and what should be done about the environment. But the point has always been, or point should be, I think, that you need to take into account the fact that the question of environment, I mean this is what we are talking about today, focally is to how man himself inscribes himself in the environment. Okay. And that basically makes us all responsible as individual human beings, as people who are in their daily life struggling for various kinds of daily ends to be met. We need to put our own we need to stress that we have our own importance in this whole process, and we need to bring it out and make these big governments and big totalizing arguments realize this. This can be done perhaps by say networking with various kinds of similar kind of some kind of family groups or environment groups who are working at informal levels, people who are perhaps maybe corresponding through things like the internet and things like that. We need to get them all. We need to get together with these and put across the fact that look, there is a kind of an environmental damaging processes which are underway, which we need to curtail, and we need to take up these initiatives at our own level, at the local level, and pressurize the government to do it at national and international level. I mean, I can see the situation working out in this manner.
No, I know, but broadly then the governments as well as the non-governmental organizations and the individual has a role in evolving a cleaner environment. It's not just the concern of the government or that of the individual. Unless we pool in our resources together, I think then only an alternative, a better future is possible. That's what we would like to say.
Yeah, I mean, we need to network together. We need to put together civil society organizations as much as possible. Get them together as much as possible. And today these kinds of means are available to us, thanks to things like internet and so on. And we basically take action at that level, in the sense that we build up opinions, strong forums. We ourselves take environmental friendly measures in our own neighborhood. I think these are the kind of things which can perhaps help in the process of lessening the kind of impact which these deadly processes of urbanization have on environment. I mean, I would suggest that we take this up seriously as professionals in various fields, as students, wherever we are. Okay, because as we have hinted in one of our units, the whole question of environment can be understood as a process of learning by doing. The essence of environmental education, or the essence of any environmental growth in environmental education, is that you basically learn as you do, as you go along doing a few activities on your own, as you start intervening, as you start making your own moves.
That's right. For instance, in many cities in India, already a strong movement against the use of plastics, for instance, has gained ground. Though even in the national capital like Delhi, we still see a large number of commercial establishments still packing their wares in plastic. At several other places, you see that people are carrying their own jute bags or other alternative bags,
alternatives for plastics,
to avoid the menace of plastics. Similarly, many hill stations have already banned use of plastics as carry bags. I don't know, there must be many other similar kind of examples where people and smaller communities have taken initiative in dealing with the environmental problems.
Yeah, that's right. I mean, there we have everyday evidences of how people in various kinds of neighborhoods have taken up initiatives in building an opinion against use of plastics, for example. There's also a widespread canvassing of green products which has gone on, which can also be a helpful kind of a measure for. Ultimately, it's an activity of what we do as individuals, as human beings who have the concern for the environment, which is important. At the second level, however, where we need to basically bring our governments and our basically the big production agencies to task is at the level of the kind of urbanization which we are witnessing. I mean, are we talking about urbanization per se? I mean, this is a question to my mind is very central. I mean, in the sense that, okay, we accept that there is with industrialization there has to be urbanization. With growth and development there has to be urbanization. No debating that. I mean that, or no questioning that to a certain extent. But yes, I mean, the kind of growth strategy which we are witnessing today, for example, is urbanization at the cost of, there is at the cost of rural development, for example. There is no attempt to make the growth process which would link both urban and rural development together. Which could basically help reverse flows of massive population flows into the urban areas, which could basically reverse the kind of massive influx of resources which are consumed in the urban areas. If we are going for an environmental friendly approach, why don't we go back to that classical conception where urban and rural development are linked? I mean, why are we just talking about urbanization today? I mean, basically growth processes, in the classical times when planners are planning, when one can quote people like Sukhomoy Chakravarti or others who saw an integral link between the rural and the urban development. So to that, do you agree that such kind of a strategy would help in curtailing the kind of impact urbanization is having on?
No, I agree with you, Ajay, because alternative development strategies are necessary, and that is what the crux of your argument has been. Because though earlier we have talked about plastics and where individual and a smaller community can make a difference, there are many other major environmental polluting factors that cannot be tackled at a small community level. Like for instance, take acid rain, which was graphically shown its adverse effects on the environment. Or even take chlorofluorocarbons, for instance, which find applications in many industrial use places. If we have to deal with these type of issues, the pollution caused by chlorofluorocarbons or acid rain, you need a totally different or alternative development strategy. You can't continue to have the similar kind of industrialization process that was been going on in the past. That's
right. We cannot imitate the 19th century European industrialization in total. We need to build an alternate strategy. Right. I think so. We have now, through our various discussions and with the help of a film, we have tried to grapple with the question of environment. The question of environment is linked very much to our development strategies, our individual beings, and also to, if I may add, to the whole process where we are ourselves inscribing ourselves in our environment, rather than are being swept away by processes which are grand processes which are beyond our control. We need to focus on the fact that we need, when governments talk about the fact that they are going to go for some total solutions and so on, we should not be befooled by that. We need to emphasize and we need to point out to governments that it is our inscription into this environment which is important, and for that an appropriate development strategy should be followed. Okay, so we have come to the end of this program. We have raised certain questions on environment. If you have any questions, queries, etc., you can send us by fax or email to the EMPC, or we can take up these questions in teleconferencing sessions later on. Thank you so much.